Have you ever looked at a website and it felt right? Or seen a logo and immediately trusted the company behind it? That's not an accident at all. It's actually a language, a secret language we've all been speaking for something like 40,000 years. So let's dive in and decode it together.
Just let that sink in for a second. Before we even had an alphabet, before we were writing words down, we were communicating visually. This isn't just some modern job for artists on a computer. Design is this fundamental, deeply human instinct to make a mark, to tell a story. It's literally hardwired into our DNA.
Okay, so to really understand the design you're seeing on your phone today, we have to rewind. And I mean way back. We're about to connect the dots from the very first marks humans ever made to the core principles that guide every single designer working right now.
So our story kicks off about 40,000 years ago with those incredible cave paintings. These were not just random scribbles, right? Our ancestors were using the high contrast of pigment on rock to tell these vivid stories. Fast forward a few thousand years, and you get the Egyptians and their hieroglyphics, one of the first really structured, organized visual systems. Then, in the Middle Ages, you have monks painstakingly crafting these beautiful illuminated manuscripts, using size and color to show you what was most important. And then, bam, 1440, the Gutenberg press. This was the first true design revolution. It changed everything, making it possible to mass-produce information and ideas for the very first time.
The Egyptians figured out a rule that hasn't changed in 5,000 years. It's a super simple but incredibly powerful concept. If you want to show that something is important, you just make it bigger. A pharaoh was always drawn towering over a common soldier. We still use this exact same principle today, only now we call it visual hierarchy. It is the single most important tool for controlling what a person sees first.
So how exactly do designers do that? How do they guide your eyes? Well, they use a set of what are basically invisible rules, this kind of secret code that directs your attention across a page or a screen without you even realizing it's happening. So, let's crack that code.
And rule number 1 is visual hierarchy. It's all about arranging things to create a clear order of importance. A really great design never makes you guess where to look. It gives your eyes a path to follow, answering the question, what do I look at first, second, and third? It's why the headline on a news story is always the biggest text on the page. It's yelling, "Look at me first!"
And designers create that path using something called a grid. You can think of a grid as the invisible skeleton that holds the entire design together. When all the elements are lined up on this hidden structure, your brain stops seeing chaos and it starts to see intention. It feels professional. It feels trustworthy, even if you can't quite put your finger on why.
And this is a perfect example of the difference it makes. Just look at the left side, without a grid. It feels random, chaotic. Your eye kind of jumps all over the place, and honestly, it's a little stressful. Now look at the right. Because of the grid, everything has a place. There's clarity, there's harmony. It's so much easier to understand. The words are exactly the same, but the experience, it's a night and day difference.
Color isn't random either. Not even close. Professional designers often use what's called the 60-30-10 rule. So 60% of your design is the main, primary brand color. 30% is a supporting secondary color, and that last 10% is a neutral for things like text and backgrounds. It's basically a recipe for visual balance that our brains just find really pleasing.
And that's because color is a shortcut, a direct line to our emotions. There's a reason so many banks and tech companies use blue, right? It subconsciously communicates trust and stability. Why do fast food places use red? It creates urgency and even stimulates appetite. These choices are always deliberate, designed to make you feel something before you've even read a single word.
Okay, so we've got some of the big rules down. Hierarchy, grids, color. But, knowing the rules of grammar doesn't automatically make you a great novelist. So how do designers actually come up with the ideas? Well, it's not magic. It's actually a structured process, a framework for solving problems that really anyone can learn.
And this is it. This is the roadmap. It's called design thinking. It's a 5-step process that turns creativity from this mysterious lightning strike into a reliable method. You start by understanding the user. Then you define the core problem. You brainstorm a ton of solutions, build a quick and dirty version, and then you test it. But here's the secret. It's a loop, not a straight line. What you learn from testing feeds right back into your next idea.
Now, of all those steps, that first one, empathize, that's the whole ballgame. This is the stage that most people skip, and it's exactly why so much design just doesn't work. If you don't truly get the person you're designing for, what frustrates them, what they actually need, then you're basically just guessing. Great design always starts with listening, not with drawing.
So, what about that brainstorming phase? What if you get stuck? Here's a brilliant little trick. Instead of trying to think of a good idea, try to come up with the absolute worst possible idea. I'm serious, the most ridiculous, awful, inappropriate solution you can imagine. It sounds totally backwards, but what it does is it frees your brain from the pressure of being perfect, and that freedom is often exactly what you need to stumble onto a genuinely good idea.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've got the history, we've got the principles, we've got the process. Now let's apply all of it to what might be the ultimate test of a modern designer's skill, creating a simple, powerful logo. But first, a quick but really important technical point. All graphics basically live in two different worlds. On the left, you have raster graphics. Think of a photograph. They're made of tiny squares or pixels. If you try to make them bigger, they just get blurry and fall apart. On the right, you have vector graphics. These are made of math, a set of equations that tells the computer how to draw lines and curves. That means you can scale a vector graphic, like a logo, from the size of a pinhead to the size of a jumbo jet, and it will always be perfectly sharp. Logos have to be vector, period. So, what makes a logo truly great? It really boils down to these 5 qualities. It has to be simple, so simple you could sketch it from memory. It needs to be memorable. It needs that unique little hook that sticks in your brain. It absolutely must be versatile, which is why it has to be vector, so it works anywhere. It should be timeless, avoiding any hot trends that'll look dated in a few years. And finally, it has to be appropriate for the brand, using all those principles of color and shape to match its personality.
So the next time you're scrolling through a website, or glancing at a business card, or even just walking down the street, you're going to see it all differently. You'll start to spot the hidden grid, the visual hierarchy, the deliberate color choices. You've been let in on the secret. You can now see the invisible language that's all around you. The only question is, what will you notice first?